walked downstairs, the sound of your heels echoing through the luxurious house. You made your way outside. Your personal bodyguard, Jungkook, stood by the car, waiting with his usual calm expression. As soon as he saw you, he stepped forward and opened the door. Where would you like to go, ma'am? The mall. I need to shop. Jungkook gave a slight nod, his expression unchanging, and held the door open until you sat inside. He closed the door and walked to the driver's seat. You leaned back, checking your phone, completely ignoring his presence. You, without looking up, drive fast. I don't have all day. Jungkook calmly, yes ma'am. Though his tone was respectful, there was a flicker of something in his eyes as he glanced at you through the rearview mirror. You don't notice, or perhaps you simply don't care. At the mall, you enter a high-end shoe boutique, and the entire staff immediately stood at attention. Whispers of your name spread among them as they recognized you, the daughter of the richest man in South Korea. The employees scrambled nervously, bringing out their best collection, their hands trembling slightly as they presented the shoes to you. Ma'am, this pair is our latest design, handcrafted. You barely glancing at it. No, too plain. These are limited edition, designed with. Not my taste. Next, the staff exchanged nervous glances, trying their best to impress you. Meanwhile, Jungkook stood silently beside the couch where you were seated, his hands behind his back, observing the chaos with an unreadable expression. You turning slightly to Jungkook, still cold. Why are they so incompetent? Is it that hard to find something worth my time? Jungkook glanced at the staff, then back at you, his voice calm. Perhaps you are being too critical. You shot him a glare, offended by his comment. The staff continued rushing around, trying desperately to meet your impossible standards. You picked up a pair of sandals and slid your foot into them. At first, they seemed fine. But when you went to take off them, the clip got stuck. Frustration built as you struggled. Tugging at it, one of the staff members stepped forward, casually to help, but you shot them a sharp glare, silently warning them to back off. The staff froze in their tracks, looking terrified. Jungkook, who had been silently watching, let out a soft sigh. Without saying a word, he moved closer and knelt down in front of you. You shocked, eyes widened slightly. What are you doing? Jungkook calmly, without looking up, fixing the problem. His touch was gentle as he carefully held your foot, untangling the clip with ease. You noticed the staff exchanging amused glances, their expression showing admiration. After all, the most handsome man in the room was kneeling before you, attending your needs. Your ego flared at the attention, and you leaned back on the couch like a queen, a smirk forming on your lips as you watched him work. Once Jungkook had removed the sandal, he placed it neatly to the side and looked up at you. After a long day at the mall, you returned home, stepping into the grand living room. Your father was seated on the sofa, engaged in a discussion with his assistant. His face lit up as soon as he saw you. You walked over and sat beside him, leaning in to hug him. Father, you are working again? We should rest. He chuckled, wrapping his arm around you with a warm smile. I will rest soon. How was your day, my princess? As usual, exhausting. Your father's assistant practically left the room as Jungkook stood slightly behind you, his usual composed demeanor intact. Your father's gaze shifted to him. Jungkook, good timing. How's everything? Is she safe? Yes, sir. No issues. Your father smiled, his tone turning soft but firm. You know Jungkook is more than just your bodyguard, my dear. You frowned, already known where this was going. He is your husband, the one I trust with your life. You rolled your eyes, leaning back on the couch. Husband? Let's not overplay, father. He is just someone with a job, someone from a different status. Jungkook remained silent, his eyes lowering slightly at your words. Your father's smile faded, and he gently placed his hand on yours. Enough, sweetheart. Don't forget the reason behind this marriage. Jungkook stepped up when no one else could. You didn't reply, but your irritation was evident. When those threats came when your life was in a danger, because of my position, no one was willing to protect you unconditionally. Jungkook didn't hesitate for a second. He saved you and agreed to marry you to keep you safe, even if it wasn't the life he wanted. You stood abruptly, brushing off his words. I don't ask for any of this. Without waiting for a response, you turned on your heel and walked to your room, slamming the door behind you. Your father sighed, rubbing his temple. Father to Jungkook, she will understand one day. Just take care of her. She is my everything. Jungkook bowing slightly. I will, sir, always. The next day, you exiting your college in a terrible mood. Cook was already waiting near the car, standing by the open door as usual. Without sparing him a glance, you walked right past him, heading down the footpath. Where are you going? The car is here. Leave me alone, Jungkook. I don't need you following me everywhere. Jungkook hesitated for a moment but then started walking behind you at a safe distance, slightly maintaining his duty. You stepped abruptly, turning to glare at him. I said, leave me alone. And you take a hint? Jungkook didn't respond, his face impassive. After a brief pause, he slightly turned and walked away, giving you the space you demanded but keeping you in his line of sight. Frustrated, you continued walking and found a park near the street. You sat on a bench, holding your head in your hands, trying to calm yourself down. The day had been overwhelming and you were drowning in frustration. Suddenly, you felt someone approaching from behind, groaning his annoyance. You turned around sharply, you without looking properly. I said I don't need. Your words froze in your throat as your eyes widened in shock. A man stood in front of you with a threatening posture, grabbing your arm tightly. Don't move or call for help. You struggled to free yourself, but the man's grip was too strong. Jungkook, who had been watching from a distance, quickly appeared. Aren't you our Kim's daughter? Where's your bodyguards, huh? Why so alone? Let her go. The man hesitated, startled by Jungkook's authoritative tone. Taking advantage of the distraction, Jungkook swiftly intervened, pulling you out of the man's grip and positioning himself protectively in front of you. Are you hurt? You clutching your arm, flinching slightly. I'm fine, just my arm. Jungkook inspected your arm gently, his jaw tightened. This is why you shouldn't wander off like that. Stay close next time. When you entered the house, your father immediately noticed the bandage on your arm, concern attached across his face. He stood up and rushed to you. Before you could answer, he turned to Jungkook. Explain this now. Jungkook stood straight, his voice calm as he recounted the incident. There was a threat while she was outside. I intervened and she got slightly hurt in the process. It's under control now. I sent a team to investigate who did this. Your father's expression darkened with anger. You were supposed to protect her, not let her get hurt. How could you let this happen? You deserve punishment for your failure. Jungkook remained silent, his expression static, but you felt an unfamiliar pang in your chest. Seeing your father's harsh words directed at him, for the first time you realized you didn't like this. Your father glanced at you, and for a brief moment, he noticed the fleeting worry in your eyes for Jungkook. He seemed to make up his mind. You will stay out the house tonight, Jungkook. No code, no shelter. Let this remain you of your responsibility. Your eyes widened in shock and you looked at Jungkook, but the moment you cast yourself, you quickly looked away, pretending not to care. You climbed the stairs and went to your room, closing the door behind you. Sitting on your bed, you tried to shake off the strange unease you felt against your will. Your gaze drifted to the window. You saw Jungkook standing outside, his posture straight despite the growing cold. The sky was getting darker and you felt a flicker of guilt. Shaking your head, you harshly pulled the curtain shut, blocking the view. Why should I care? He is just a bodyguard. But as the night grew colder, his image lingered in your mind. No matter how hard you tried to push it away, it was the middle of the night when you were suddenly awakened by an overwhelming chill. You opened your eyes, feeling the cold air brush against your skin, the sound of rain pattering against the window echoing through the room. And you realized the window was slightly open, letting in the stormy breeze. You quickly stood up, intending to close the window, but as you approached it, your gaze froze. There, standing in the rain, drenched and shivering, was Jungkook. His eyes were closed, and despite the cold, he managed to stand, his posture rigged, as though he was holding himself together. Your heart raced as you glanced at the time. It was 3 a.m. You immediately ran out of your room, pushing open the door of the house and heading into the rain-soaked night. You shouting, Jungkook, what are you doing? You reached him, grabbing his shoulder and shaking him. Come inside, you are going to get sick. Jungkook barely moved, his voice weak but still determined. It's fine, go inside, you will catch a cold. At first, you tried to reason with him, speaking normally, trying to make him understand. But when he didn't listen, your frustration boiled over and you shouted at him, no, you don't get it. You're not obeying my father's orders. You need to come inside now. As your anger flared, something shifted in you. Your voice wavered, and your eyes burned with unshed tears. Without warning, your tears began to fall, mixing with the rain that drenched your skin. You couldn't stand seeing him like this. Before you could say anything more, Jungkook collapsed, his body giving way as he fainted. You managed to catch him in your arms, but the weight of him almost made you stumble. Jungkook, Jungkook, wake up! You shouted for the guards, and they rushed over to you. Get him inside, quickly, take him to my room. With their help, they carefully lifted Jungkook, bringing him into your room and laying him on your bed. You stood at the door, you just died with panic, watching as they covered him with a blanket and made sure he was warm. You felt a surge of guilt as you wiped the rain from your face. You had never seen him so vulnerable before, and something inside you stirred. You couldn't help but feel irresponsible even though your father had ordered this. Your father entered the room shortly after being informed, his face filled with concern as soon as he saw Jungkook laying there, still unconscious, and you standing by his side, trembling, your tears burst uncontrollably. Without thinking, you ran to your father and hugged him tightly, sobbing into his chest. Dad, I didn't want this. I didn't want him to be out there. He was shivering, so cold. Your father stood still for a moment, his arms gently wrapping around you. His voice was soft, almost comforting. I know. I didn't mean for him to suffer, but you care for him. I can see that now. He pulled away slightly, his eyes softening. Despite the guilt, there was a quiet pride in his gaze as he realized your concern for Jungkook. He ordered a maid to bring a blanket and then wrapped it around you, noticing how soaked and shivering you were. Cover her up, she's just as cold. Take care of her. You shivered as the blanket was wrapped over your shoulder, but the chill still lingered. The weight of everything happening hit you harder now, and you shouted to the guards in a panic. Get the doctor now. Don't waste any time. The guards hurried out, and the maid stood awkwardly by the door. Unsure of what to do, one of them approached Jungkook to remove his wet shirt, but you immediately stepped in front of them. No, don't touch him. The maids hesitated, glancing at each other, but you ordered them out of the room. All of you leave now. They quickly retreated, leaving you alone with Jungkook. You walked over to the heater and turned it up. The air was still heavy with rain and tension, but the heat started to seep into your bones, climbing you. With shaking hands, you gently took off Jungkook's sweatshirt, tears blurring your vision as you carefully undid the buttons. You couldn't help but feel overwhelmed as you saw his pale, exhausted face. Your heart clinched in your chest, and you softly wiped away the tears that continued to fall. You laid the shirt aside and pulling the blanket closer, hoping the warmth from the heater would help him recover. The doctor arrived soon after quickly assessing Jungkook's condition. He instructed everyone to make sure he stayed warm, monitoring him carefully as he administered treatment. Once the doctor was satisfied that Jungkook was stable, the rest of the house slowly cleared, leaving you alone with him. Your father, noticing your distress, gently closed the door behind him. Giving you some space, you sat on the floor beside the bed, holding Jungkook's hand under the covers, your tears falling freely. You whispered apologies to him, your voice shaky, but he remained unconscious. The night stretched on, filled with your quiet sobs and soft sounds of the storm outside. When morning arrived, you were still there, your head resting on the side of the bed as you had fallen asleep. Jungkook's eyes fluttered open, and he slowly became aware of his surroundings. He glanced over at you, still on the floor, you sleeping from curled up beside the bed. His eyes softened for a moment, but then he quickly looked around, realizing he was in your room. Without a word, he carefully stood up, trying not to disturb you, and quietly left the room. A few minutes later, you woke up and noticed the bed was empty. Your heart sank and panic set in. You immediately rushed out of the room and asked the nearest guards where Jungkook had gone. The guard informed you that he had gone to his cottage. You nodded slightly and returned to your room. You quickly freshened up. The event of the night replaying in your mind as you tried to calm yourself. Sitting on the bed, you waited, feeling an unsettling tension in your chest. After a while, you looked out the window and saw Jungkook walking back from his cottage, now dressed in his bodyguard suit. Without thinking, you ran out to him, calling his name. Jungkook, Jungkook stopped walking, but when he turned to face you, his expression was colder than usual. There was a distance in his eyes, something that felt almost like a wall between you two. You should go back inside. You froze, the heart flashing across your face, but you tried not to show it. You stepped forward, feeling the weight of his coldness pressing on you. Jungkook, what happened? Why are you acting like this? Jungkook's eyes darkened slightly, and he looked away. His jaw tightened. Nothing's changed. He turned and began walking away again. His step deliberate and firm. The gap between you two and you stood there, watching him, feeling the space between you two widened. Why are you in duty, huh? You had a high fever last night. You reached for his arm, but before you could hold him, Jungkook stepped back, his expression now completely cold and professional. His gaze was distant, as if he had already built a wall between the two of you. Why do you care? I am just your bodyguard. His words cut deep, like a sharp blade, as you stopped in your tracks, feeling the sting of his indifference. The tears you had been holding back finally fell, running down your cheeks as you shook your head. You're shouting through your tears, no, you're more than that. You're my husband too. Jungkook froze, his eyes flickering with something unreadable for a moment. You could feel the weight of your confession in the air, the tension thick between you both. You took a deep breath, gathering your courage, and with trembling hands, you wiped the tears away. I care for you, Jungkook. I love you. But I have been so stubborn. My ego, I always push you away because of it. But I can't anymore. I am sorry. For a long moment, Jungkook remained silent, his eyes studying you as if he were trying to understand everything you had just said. The coldness in his gaze softened just slightly as if your words were finally reaching him. Without saying anything, he stepped towards you and gently took your hand. The warmth of his touch sent a shock through your body, and before you could even process what was happening, Jungkook pulled you into his arms. You gasped, not expecting him to hold you, but as you buried your face into his chest, you couldn't hold back anymore. You cried, tears falling freely as you clung to him, feeling the weight of everything you had been holding inside. Jungkook didn't speak, but he held you tightly, his arms wrapping around you as if to protect you from everything. For the first time in what felt like forever, you felt safe. Say it again. The words hung in the air between you, a soft play that stirred something deep inside you. Your heart raced and the tension in your chest seemed to melt away as you looked up at him, your voice barely a whisper. I love you. Jungkook's eye darkened and without another word, he pulled you in closer, his lips capturing yours in a kiss that was both gentle and urgent. It was like the weight of all unspoken feeling between you both and finally found their release. Kissed him back, your hands resting on his chest as you felt the warmth of his embrace. The world around you seemed to fade away as the kiss deepened. The connection between you stronger than ever before. Everything that had been holding you back, all the pride and ego, seemed to despair in that moment, leaving nothing but the two of you. Time skipped to a bright sunny morning. You stepped out of the house, your mood light, and a smile graced your face as you spotted Jungkook leaning casually against the car, his arms crossed. Looking effortlessly handsome, he noticed you and straightened up, opening the car door with bow. Jungkook dramatically, where to, ma'am? You tilted your head pretending to think deeply, tapping your chin for effect. What about a date? Jungkook straightened, rising up brow and putting on his most serious expression. I am on duty, ma'am. Dating the client is highly unprofessional. She rolled her eyes and he began dramatically tapping his wrist fast, muttering as if checking his non existent schedule. Let's see. Oh, wait, I'm fully booked with guarding you. No time for dates. Scoffed and nudged him with your elbow. Stop being ridiculous, Jungkook chuckled, stuffed demeanor melting instantly. He leaned in and kissed your forehead softly, his warm breath brushing against your skin. Alright, let's go on that date. You smiled and slid into the passenger seat, but as Jungkook walked around to the driver's side, you paused and frowned. Wait, why are you wearing that suit? Jungkook stopped, confused, glancing down at his suit. Because I'm your bodyguard? You crossed your arm, glaring at him playfully. You are not my bodyguard today. You are my husband, and husbands don't go on dates looking like secret agents. Go change. Jungkook chuckled, but you weren't backing down. You got out of the car and physically pushed him toward the house. Alright, stop shouting. I will change. From the garden, your father said with a cup of tea. Watching the scene unfold, he chuckled, shaking his head as he admired the playful banter between you two. Father to himself. Finally, they are happy. I think it's time for their officially wedding. A few minutes later, Jungkook returned in a casual shirt and jeans, looking effortlessly good. We know you smirked, inspecting him from head to toe. Perfect. Now let's go before I change my mind. He opened the door for you again, this time with a teasing smile, and as you settled in, he muttered, Bossy. You playfully sweated his arm, and the car roared to life, heading off for a date filled with laughter and love.